Meet Norman.
Can't you be like other kids your age?
His parents don't get him.
He's probably up there fiddling with his Ouija or his orb.
Harry.
His sister doesn't like him.
You are such a loser.
And the kids at school
Look, it's Abnorman.
always pick on him. But he does have some friends.
Norman, wait up. I like to be alone. So do I. Let's do it together.
It's just that most of them
Good morning.
aren't exactly alive.
How's it hanging?
Haven't heard that one before.
Do you see ghosts like all the time? Who's a good boy? That's not his chin.
You know, I always wondered what the story was with Michael J. Fox and the Frighteners. How did he get started? What was his beginning?
And that's how you saw this as the origin of that.
It's the Frighteners 0.
I suppose so.
Well, when I saw this, all I thought about was like, oh, it's Sixth Sense, the animated series. I mean, I was going Sixth Sense, woo!
That's the theme song.
Yeah, wait a minute, was that DuckTales? Except you put in Sixth Sense.
Hey, were you trying to get me sued? Yeah,
Sixth Sense, woo! Good Lord.
I mean, because it pretty
You were
much
such a child of the '80s.
Those are the best times.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
But I mean, watching the intro, I mean, that's pretty much what it is. It's a kid who sees dead people, right?
It's true. Well, I guess now seeing dead people is not even that big of a deal.
Teenage psychic nerdy kids. Teenage psychic nerdy.
You know, you got the ghost whisperer and
let's not push
and medium. It's just a thing you do now. You know, half the people on True Blood can see dead people.
Look, if there were dead people, there would be really nerdy people who could see them. Let's all
Only
go
the-
with this.
only
If
the
there
nerdy people
If
could
there
see
were
them.
if there were souls floating around everywhere, not if there were dead people. Obviously, people have died.
Yeah, leave it to the nerdy kids that actually want to talk to dead people, because the ones who are living actually don't want anything to do with them.
And this, of course, follows Norman, or here's the title is Paranorman, because he has paranormal abilities. He, like his uncle before him, can see the dead everywhere as he
And
walks,
talk to him.
and they can see him back. And he walks down the street. They may be creepy looking, but they just act like they did when they were alive, pretty much. Hey, how's it going? How are you? Nice to see you. What's going on? And of course, this makes him completely shut out from his family, from everyone at school, because he is an idiot and doesn't realize that you don't go around talking to invisible people everywhere.
Oh wait, he's a brony also.
Yeah, I know. It's funny how everything's gonna go right back to bronies. You know?
I know I've been gone for 2 weeks and missed a bunch, but I don't want no part of this shit.
Hey, you know what? I'm looking forward to the comment section blowing up again. You know?
But you're right. You're right. He walks around. He sees dead people all the time. He's almost kind of depressed about it, which is one of the things I kind of like. The fact that he's like, all right, I can see dead people, and it's kind of depressing to see dead people everywhere when you really stop and think about it.
I mean, it would depend on the circumstance and where you are. If you were like on, Hollywood Boulevard, it'd probably be fun.
I guess. Yeah. You'd be like, oh man,
It'd be really interesting. Yeah,
you were always my hero. How did you die? Oh, I was down in Guatemala snorting coke off of a hooker, and her boyfriend came and stabbed me. You say, oh, wow, Lone Ranger, I expected more for you.
But wouldn't you, the first thing you would do once you were old enough to get your license is drive around the country? You'd be like, seriously, it was Courtney Love, wasn't it?
Wow.
We all have our priorities.
Yeah. As long as I get to see the cartoon version of Kurt Cobain, sure. I don't know if I want to see the Sixth Sense version of him. That would fuck me up.
Yeah, for real, a big hole in his forehead.
I can't understand a word you're saying, Kurt.
Oh, look, he's singing his hit song. I can't tell the difference.
Directly in tune.
Wow, man, it's even better live.
I still can't understand the words.
Kirk, never look at a solo career, please.
But anyway, getting way back off that.
Back to Paranorman.
Back to Paranorman. So anyway, he goes to school. He's got a bully who beats him up. His older sister named Courtney is, which I have to point out because my girlfriend's named Courtney. I was like, huh? She just gave us a nasty look. Is embarrassed to be his sister. His dad doesn't approve. He's kind of a jockey type dad. He's like, oh, what are you doing? You can't be like that. You're a freak. People are going to make fun of you. Well, have you missed it? They already are. Point is, his life kind of sucks. He's got one friend, and he doesn't even want that friend because that friend is kind of fat and stupid.
Yeah. He's friend with the only kid who gets picked on more than he does.
Exactly. But the difference is that kid's got kind of more of a happy outlook.
Yeah, the kid gets picked on. He's a ginger for one thing, so you can't help but kick his ass.
So he has no choice but to have a dopey outlook.
Right? Yeah, but he is like, so what?
He's twice. It's ignorance is bliss, and he's chosen that path. But he's like, look, we got to be friends. We're the two freaks, we got to be friends. He picks unfortunate timing, though, because it turns out that there's this ancient curse around the city from a witch who was hung there long ago. Apparently, every year on her birthday, you gotta go to her grave and perform a ceremony, or she will rise, and the dead will rise, and chaos erupts, and cats and dogs are sleeping together, and all that shit. Mm-hmm. Norman doesn't know what the fuck is going on. His uncle shows up to try and warn him about him, but he's such a hobo.
No. Emmett Kelly was a hobo. This guy is a crazy homeless guy. He's a crazy bum.
Right. Hobo is like, hobo is what, like in Sullivan's Travels, where
yeah, exactly. We got a polka dot knapsack on him.
Exactly. This is crazy. I'll show you my tits for a nickel.
Yeah, this is John Goodman after he spent all his Roseanne money and he's digging through garbage cans.
Yes, it's literally John Goodman doing the voice here. Trying to warn him.
Northern Exposure. Yeah.
He dies before he can get much out, but the kid gets the book, the magical book. You read it, and it's just a book of fairy tales. So
it's like Cinderella. Yeah.
I've been holding back the witch's curse for years, but now I'm dead. It has to be you.
But I don't know what any of it means.
It means the past is coming back to haunt you. Time is running out. The anniversary of the witch's death is tonight. Her ghost is going to wake up, and when she does, she'll raise the dead. You gotta keep her in her grave.
But I'm just a kid. How am I supposed to stop it?
Read from the book at the spot the witch was buried.
So what's a kid to do? Well, you get together with your friends and not so much friends and your family who doesn't even really like you, and you figure out a way to get past your differences and make them trust you to save the world.
Well, you have to because there's a whole zombie apocalypse going on in your town.
Oh yeah, the zombies are literally rising, and not just like regular zombies, but zombies of like Puritans.
Puritan zombies.
Double
like the worst zombies. Yeah. Like they aren't even fun. They never were fun.
No, they're pure.
I mean, like it's one thing. It's like, wow, you're gonna rise from the dead and eat my brain, but you're gonna judge me too, man. That's fucked up.
No, your brain goes, have you been looking at porn? This tastes funny.
This tastes filthy.
Now this is a stop motion animation, which normally all we get is 3D, CG and Pixar stuff.
Sure, but this is the people who did Coraline,
right?
Leica, I believe they're called.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Named after the Russian cosmonaut dog.
And the thing is, I actually had to look it up because watching it, I was going back and forth. I was like, is this stop motion or is this like a computer generated version of stop motion? But you're right. No, you're right. I actually looked it up and it is completely stop motion.
Yeah, it's stop motion.
It's incredible.
They have something they do for the facial expressions.
Yeah,
and they probably use a little computer just to soften the rough edges.
I would argue that most certainly in the faces, there's a certain actual flesh-like quality to the faces on these not really supposed to look like real human character that was kind of grossing me out a little bit. You're like,
really?
Oh, you look like if you touch it with them, they would actually feel like flesh, but that they don't look like realistic people. So,
well, the thing is, I don't know who the cartoonist was who did the storyboards or did the designs or whatever. But he's got a style that I see in a lot of independent comics, and it's very it's very sketchy when you see this on printed paper. So I'm really amazed at how well they were able to take something that's so 2D and make it 3D. Give it that space and walk around and look.
I was completely floored just by the look of it. Where I was trying to nail down the style of it because you look at it, I mean, it looks I mean, it looks like an exaggerated, like almost EC Comics-ish, version of the zombies that they do. Especially, at the very beginning, there's a really cool trailer that starts out the movie, right, and really gets you into the mood and just the feel of what the movie's going to be. And I mean, and the music as well. I have to admit, the music and the style of this movie just blew me away.
Well, the thing is, it is kind of beautiful looking in its own way. I mean, I noticed with the technique they're using a lot is everything is just asymmetrical enough.
Yeah.
Like people's faces, even like their nose is slightly tilted one way, but their mouth is always slightly tilted the other way. Like everything is just a little bit of kilter, from the basic designs of people's houses to, like I said, their facial expressions.
Oh, yeah.
Even the jockey character in here, his abs are akimbo. I noticed. I was like, that's just weird. But it does serve to give the thing a really original look. A lot of the background stuff, there's all this stuff they do with a storm that's using like some kind of cloth and tissue paper that's just jaw-droppingly beautiful. And it's a shame that, to me, like watching this, ultimately I went, wow, you guys knocked out of the park because it's so good looking, and you trying so hard to try and do something slightly different from what other people are doing before as a story, but you're so concerned with what you want to say with your movie that ultimately you just didn't make a very funny cartoon.
Well, and Coast and I were talking about this because I think the movie starts out pretty strong. It's you see its original vision, the visuals blow you away. It's like, wow, I'm really loving this. Then you get to the second act, and the second act is where it's a lot of running around with all the secondary characters, and whoever did the punch up on the script should be fired.
Yeah.
Because, like, you talk about a movie where, even though you like the movie, I would say 90% of the jokes fall completely flat.
Oh, yeah.
They're recycled from old movies. They're inappropriate. They don't give you any development on any of the secondary characters at all.
It's just so lazy.
It is.
It's lazy, and when, like, especially when you want to really get to know these characters because they look really cool,
right?
And like, there's no real like backstory, even to where when they're interacting with each other, you're like, wow, there's no chemistry because I know nothing about these characters, and I know that these characters know nothing about each other because you never get to explore any of their relationships at all. The movie moves at a really quick pace, and because of that, all the comedy just seems like, okay, it's like we forgot this is a kids movie. So let's throw something in there to make a stupid kid laugh, and it doesn't
I feel
work.
Like ultimately, maybe that's where it misstepped because it couldn't decide. I mean, I think it's coming out in August now because even like the marketers couldn't decide how do you market this, and they couldn't decide is it a kids movie, is it not? Because so much of it feels like a Tim Burton movie.
Yeah,
it certainly has that, but what it doesn't do, where a Tim Burton movie will start out strong, kind of falter in the middle, and then by the third act, it's just like it's a big free for all. Where you're like, wow, it just went fuck this. It didn't even care anymore. This movie, it seemed like it cared, but it got into the middle, it didn't know what to do, and it's relying on the jokes that aren't there. Well, it's not until the third act where I thought it bounced back really strong.
There's no connection between Norman and any other character, really, is one of the biggest problems. He's always alone because he's the only even mildly intelligent character in the entire film. Everyone else is a blithering idiot well past the point where you should give a shit about them at all. These sort of things usually require one or two characters like that, not the entire supporting cast. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to get behind it. Even Norman himself is just not that interesting.
Right.
I mean, the whole idea of him like having the ghost pals is completely abandoned after the first act. Like, that is the last time you see any of those other ghosts. They just don't come back. You think you start with that. Eventually you're like, hey, that's the thing he could do. That could probably come in useful, or at least when it asks the big question in the movie, we have a big secret we need to find out what the answer to that's buried in the town's past. I'm like,
and the only people who know are these undead
hello
people. Yeah. Only got a guy who could talk to ghosts and the undead.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, that was that was going to be one of the main things I wanted to talk about, was just the fact that they completely abandoned the premise of this movie, which is the fact that this kid could see dead people and communicate with them, to where I honestly thought that in the trailer they gave you the idea that that's what the movie was going to be about. So, I mean, halfway through, I was like, well, when does this communication with the dead actually start to happen? And why is it that he's only communicating with these Puritans and not everyone. It made no
what happened?
sense.
Did the rest of the dead leave town?
Yeah.
It's like fuck that. There's zombies. And
Yeah. I guess we'll get that in the director's cut. The mass exodus of dead people.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was just like kind of like, all right, we need to have something here, or maybe it was a different set of writers, or they just thought, oh, the punch-up guys can fix this, and it just wasn't working.
No, not at all. It's very awkward watching them fumble about trying to decide what they want this movie to go to. It's like they had figured out point A and they had figured out point C.
Yeah.
Point B, they had no clue how they were going to get to those two. It was just the question marks, then profit. And their profit in the end was they really went for a far left message. I mean, that was their deal. This is a very liberal film.
Oh, to say
the least.
I mean, the thing is, like everything in the third act, I thought was awesome because they got away from the jokes. They stopped trying to make it funny. It got back to being like a hardcore, horror ghost story. And the stuff they pulled in the ethereal world and the effects, I was just like, wow, I did not expect this movie to bounce back because I had kind of written it off at this point, and I thought it bounced back really strong. I was totally into it. I was like, this is amazing. This is everything I wanted to see. And it does end with something where, it's a last final gag, but it is, it's groundbreaking. It's liberal to the point where, like, my jaw was on the floor. I was like, well, goddamn.
I remember asking you, like, right after, like, I was like, do you kind of feel that that's somewhat inappropriate for a kids movie?
I don't.
The thing is, like, when I think about, like, our generations, it would have been inappropriate, but a little bit plugged into what the kids are into today, and for them right now, it's not that.
I mean, I would argue that the point of everything that is going on around that thing is so that no one would ever question why that would be inappropriate for kids. That's normal. Your kid should be as exposed to that as
I felt like they used it for like a cheap gag.
It's one of those things where I always say, like, you're kind of damned if you do, if you're damned if you don't, because it's kind of, you could say, like, hey, that's a cheap gag and throw it in there, and I could see that point, but at the same time, look, it's getting out there, it's making a statement, and the movie wasn't really about all that, so it would have had to hijack the movie to set it up.
And it didn't at all. It's a throwaway gag.
It is a throwaway gag.
Actually used for a quick laugh that wraps up a storyline in a way that doesn't leave you with any judgments one way or the other on it. And it's like, it worked for me.
All you modern puritanicals, you could always just, like, cut the movie off before your kid sees this part.
It's not just that, though.
If it bothers you that much.
It's the ultimate goal of the film about, like, that sort of acceptance in general.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's just an extra little candle on the cake of the message that the film is trying to say about acceptance, regardless of outside appearances, regardless of preconceived notions. I mean, it's like talking about the Puritans and the witch trials, and at first there was a point in the mid-period of the film that I was like, is this movie going to piss me off? Is this movie going to turn out with this whole, fucking evil witches, and God, they cursed these pure Puritans, and I was like, oh man, I swear to God, if this is all this movie has to offer, I'm really not going to like it. And ultimately, it took a turn so far for the left and so descriptive of what they were trying to get across. I approved, and yet it felt awkward. It felt like they stopped the movie and went, and it was like Linus on the Christmas Peanuts episode reading from the Bible, and everyone's like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. I didn't feel that because as left-leaning as it goes, it still does ultimately have that message of not just acceptance, but like, look, people are gonna fuck you over. You're better off not holding on to that.
It's just unfortunate that the movie took so long to get to that, to where by the time it comes in, to me it felt like it was an afterthought in a way, when you realize how much time you were sitting there until you ultimately got to that ending, to where it's like this probably would have been better as a short. And not so drawn out.
And I even felt it was kind of anticlimactic, because they get to that point, they want to blow their wad with a big special effects sequence, and sure, they do. They pull out some big effects, but it was absurdly surreal to the point that I wasn't clear even on what was actually supposed to be happening outside of this visual idea that they had, in context of what was going on in real life other than this hallucinatory thing that appeared to be going on. I was like, okay, I felt like I never really saw the final conflict of the film. It was just like a dream of a final conflict.
That's funny to hear you say that, because the whole time I'm thinking, like, this is the kind of thing that Cyrus is normally into and I'm against. And this is like one of these times where, like, wow, I'm really into it this time. I see why he likes these things. And now you come out going like, I don't know.
They pulled
wearing it on his sleeve.
They pulled this same shit in Poltergeist 2. That's all I'm saying. Carlos knows what I'm talking about.
I do know. But the thing is, I was like wondering, like, man, I could see why they dumped it, because I wouldn't know how you would market this as a kids movie when you actually see it. Where it's like it just seemed like the audience that its real audience is almost like the Ain't It Cool Alamo Drafthouse type crew, where they can appreciate all the style of it. It's more style than anything else. To where I see people like flipping their shit over this. But I mean, when you get down to the actual story, there's not much there. Yeah. That's the disappointment.
As well as, like you said, like for kids, there's a lot of pretty dark stuff in here. It's a lot of violent stuff in here. It is certainly not appropriate for the youngest of children. I mean, only based on its violence level and its scariness alone. And you're right. I think that like this is for people who remember it more in a nostalgic sense of like, oh, I used to have all the issues of Famous Monsters of Filmland,
right?
That kind of shit, which is a very pretty small niche group to begin with. But then all the humor is aimed at the tiniest little kids. It's not very mature humor. There's not much of I mean, it's like the only stuff that's there for adults is them approving of the message of the film. That as far as actual humor, story devices, character building, all that stuff is only for the youngest of tots to appreciate, really. Well, and I felt like it unbalances the whole movie in a way that it never was able to recover from.
I don't know. For me, it did recover. To me, that middle was what a Burton movie is at the end, and which I usually leave on that note, going like, well, I don't ever need to see that again. And with this, what it does at the end, it impressed me, and it made me go like, wow, you know what? I could see this. I mean, I think the jury's still out on it. Is it inappropriate for kids? I don't know. Kids are actually more sophisticated these days. They're exposed to a lot more pop culture than we were. And times are changing. And as much as we like, I don't know about kids watching this, and they're like, oh shit, they're sitting there enjoying it and really getting something out of it that even we didn't.
Kids like to see edgy stuff too. We always try and protect them from stuff, but they're not blithering idiots, or at least not most of them. So it's like, hey, a lot of them are like excited when you give them a chance to watch something a little more daring, and you'll know right off in this movie whether or not you should show your kid the rest of it. To be fair,
for sure. And I mean, it has all the potential to sneak up and be a Halloween classic. Something that'll be shown. People will like, pull out a sheet, and hey, maybe they're sick of watching The Nightmare Before Christmas every year. They decided, hey, let's watch Paranorman this year, and the kids dig it.
Whatever happened to It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie?
Well, you can still watch that, but that's 22 minutes. That's only 22 minutes of the night. You still got more things to do.
Monster Party.
Halloween is a long night.
Abbott and Costello.
All right, man. Nobody wants to see that again.
I always have to go pull out my Three Stooges Halloween special.
Wow.
But yeah, I don't know about it being a Halloween classic. I mean, I felt like there's points of this that it might have gone that way, and it's certainly beautiful enough, and there's enough, visually, there's enough inventive stuff in that sense, and some honestly funny sight gags here and there that it could have built into that, but it just wanders around too much. It meanders too much. You never really care about any of the characters, Norman included, because he's really kind of a boring kid, despite the fact he can see the dead. You're like, Jesus Christ! I would say live it up, but I wish I could give this a higher rating, and I think in full respect of the animation crew here, who do deserve mad props, I'm giving this a high rental, and it's almost entirely that rating based on that alone, because I thought most of the rest of this is so forgettable.
It's funny, like we got this whole trend of these movies with kids who are supposed to be like the nerdy outsider, and yet they have a superpower, and you go like, I don't understand how this works. Wait, you can climb walls and shoot webs and ride a skateboard, and yet you're the kid who's the outcast, and you can see ghosts and whatever. The thing is, I don't know. I felt a lot more positive about this movie than you guys did. I mean, it's certainly not perfect, and I won't deny any of the flaws you brought up about it. But even talking about it, I think about movies like The Nightmare Before Christmas and The Frighteners, and I still liked it better than those movies. And it's a great art project of a film. Just it's that unique look. I mean, certainly the whole crew, production crew behind it deserves an A+. And I applaud a movie that can lose me in the middle and bring me back at the end. And because of what happens in the third act, it's enough to where I could watch it again. So I'm going to give it a matinee.
Well, this one is tough because the look of it, the style of it is incredible. I mean, I would give that a full price across the board. The style of it and the music, I love the music. It's almost like a throwback to like the Goblin soundtracks, like when they did the Dawn of the Dead stuff, where I'm crazy about that kind of shit. But after seeing the movie and having a few days, to think about it, I couldn't remember half of it, and that's unfortunate because as beautiful as it looked like, I see it as kind of a wasted potential of what they really could have explored with this movie, especially with making this character Norman interesting. Because like the trailer, it just seemed like a winner, a surefire winner for like to fill in another place on your DVD shelf to have your Halloween animated movies, sitting right next to Nightmare Before Christmas. But unfortunately, this movie doesn't even do that, and I'm not even like the hugest fan of Nightmare Before Christmas, but I would honestly ask somebody to put this in before they put in Paranorman, and that's unfortunate. But yeah, the more I think about it, the more I want to give it a rental, and it pains me because this is a beautiful looking art project. But that's about it. I wish more focus went into the story and making these characters memorable, and making the just making a really fucking cool Halloween movie, because I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for an animated Halloween type movie to really blow me away.
I thought Monster House was a great example of a recent Halloween movie that did a really good job doing that sort of thing, and nobody saw it.
I didn't see it, so maybe I should.
It's a damn good Halloween animated film.
You know what? It is. I guess to me, it's about on that same level. To be honest, I mean, Monster House it's probably more solid, but at the same time, it's way too much of a throwback to everything Spielberg's done before, almost as much as Super 8 is, where it's like, all right, he must have wrote this on a weekend and just never got around to writing it.
Found this the 12-year-old Steven Spielberg's notes.
Yeah.
See, but right now I'm praying to God that new Adam Sandler.
I know. Hoping that's going to be the next man.
I hope that doesn't fail me. I hope.
Well, Adam Sandler never fails you.
So sad. I mean, I feel. I mean, this is like a scene in a Holocaust movie where the little girl's like, "Are my parents okay?" You're like, I have to be the one to tell them, no.
No, they're fine. They're waiting for you. They're actually, go in the shower.
Dead along with Adam Sandler's career.
Now, to save his town, he'll need a little help.
Oh yeah.
I got you. Oh, this is getting completely out of hand. Is he dead or what?
And a whole lot of guts.
Is everyone alright? Nobody got bitten? I bit. I hung. Did that count?
This summer, you don't become a hero
Norman? This is so Norman.
by being normal.
There's nothing wrong with being scared, Norman. So long as you don't let it change who you are.
Paranorman.
You wanna play some hockey?